So I guess the next thing then is how a network guy learns how to do this stuff, right? Because what we're trying to do here is accelerate people into this, and that's where the new certification program comes in, right? Because it's that thing of taking people and moving them on to be developers. See what I did there?
Yeah.
I like that. That's a great sound effects.
That was very smooth transition.
Yeah.
That was slick.
Almost like it was planted.
Yeah.
Hey, do you know what?
Good segue, mate.
I'm not editing that out either.
Yeah.
Go for it. But no, that's obviously where things are moving on, and obviously come February, everyone's going to be wanting to pick up on exactly the stuff we're talking about here, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, you and obviously Stuart, we know that you're doing some work on on that program. So, what can you share with us about how that will help us along?
The cert journey was really interesting. I was a real cert chaser. I really, really was. I was taking a Cisco exam every 3 months. I was just pursuing it. I went really aggressive. I think within a space of 18 months, I'd taken 1, 4, 7, 10 Cisco exams. I got 3 failures in there. So if you had the failures on that, I'd probably taken close to 15 as well. So I was a real cert chaser because I want.
If you don't mind me asking you why, if you don't mind.
Why? Great question. So because when I started at that first place that I spoke about, the knock and things like that. I'd started on first line money, first line wage kind of thing, and I wanted to go further, and so I said to my manager, I said, look, I want to move up the chain. How do I do that? And he said to me, well, certification will help you, because then I'll be able to say, to the CEO and, the people withholding the purse strings, hey, I've got a guy here who's now a CCNP. We ought to keep him and stuff, or we're just going to lose him. He's going to go to a better job. Okay. So, I mean, the thing was, I kind of got into this pattern as well that, once you start on this kind of cert learning and things, it just becomes an obsession, and that kind of...
I don't know what you're talking about there, man.
So if you've read...
None of us do.
If you've read that kind of book, How to Build Effective Habits by James Clear, I think it is. Great. But once once you get into that sort of path of reading for a good percentage of your time at nighttime and studying, as soon as you stop, you kind of don't know what to do with yourself. And so even after I'd done my CCNA and stuff, I started to look at the CCNP. My wife had just had our first child. So, that was kind of tricky of finding that balance of, working sort of, 50 hours, being an on-call engineer, having a 100-mile round trip to work, being, super husband, super first-time dad and things like that, being, I mean, literally up to my neck in shit at the time, So, figuratively speaking, and this is I see, and literally, and I said to my boss, is this a good idea? Is pursuing this a good idea? And he said, yeah, it's a good idea. It really is a good idea for you to do that. For you to do that, because and it was funny because pretty much then, as soon as I got the nod from him, and I said to him, look, are you going to pay for the exams? And he said, we'll pay for the exams. I was like, wow, someone's going to pay for the exams for me. And I took the first first one, which was back then it was the BCSI, Building Cisco Scalable Internetworks, which is now root. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And back in the day. And I passed that. And then I went to him sort of like 3-4 months later and said, hey, I'm ready to take my switch. And he went, switch up. What was the switch one? It was the Building Scalable Cisco Internetworks.
ICND 1 and 2.
And he said to me, we're not going to pay for it. And I said, why? And he goes, we've brought in a new policy. We're only going to pay for 1 exam a year. I'm like, I'm not going to wait 4 years. Do you know what I mean? And so, at that point, I thought, I'm on a broken promise here. So I'm going to borrow more money. I'm going to ramp my credit card up. And I'm going to put myself through the exams, and I'm going to get the hell out of here. And my ticket to getting the hell out of here is the CCNP. As soon as I get that exam, I'm going to know a hell of a lot more, and I'm going to be able to go to people and say, look, I put myself through the CCNP.
It's on my CV. Yeah,
it's on my CV. And I put myself through this. I put myself through this once again. This is, to show that I was to this. So, yeah, that was why. It became obsession, and, I wanted to learn about BGP more, and that really wasn't covered then on the CCNP. So that's when I started down the CCIP, and that was around. So.
Yeah, I mean, it's something that always comes up when we're talking about this, isn't it? And I'm sure everyone here can relate. As soon as you've passed an exam, as soon as you get your CCIE, you realise just how much you don't yet know. And so you go chasing after everything else that you don't know. And that is just, it's a lifelong commitment to learning. That's just what we do.
Well, and the reason why I asked that, right, because we said cert chasing, right? So I don't even know if you remember, Daren, but way back and maybe months ago on LinkedIn, there was a whole, people, it's two armies. One to say, hey, get your certs, and the other says, the hell with certs, right? Yeah. And I kind of lean in the middle, right? So the beauty about certifications is the blueprint. Yeah. That's it, right. So if you want to know something, you have to say, okay, here's a blueprint of what I should know. Consider myself a novice in that technical expertise. So that's the fine line that I like. But it's great to hear of your challenge. Your stories are going through certs. I probably CCNP. I got my CCNP in '98, and in '98 there was no restriction, right? I got my CCNP, all 4 tests, in 1 month, right? Probably a test 2 or 3 a day. Wow. It was because of me.
The definition of brute force.
Wait a minute. He'll be getting the book out next that he wrote about it. I bet he's got it there next to him. No, I'm sorry, mate. You crack on.
He's probably sitting on it.
I'm plugging my again. I can't even find it. I'm not plugging it again.
Genuinely.
It's $3.98 on Amazon.
You can't still get this.
Man.
This is version 0.1 of the exam. Don't buy it, anybody. Please don't do it.
Kidding. My wife hit it.
Well, I think that was that when they went from 6 exams with the MP and then it went down to 4, or you could do a core exam.
Well,
it was always 4. It was always 4 exams.
Was it written in parchment back in them days? on
yes, I like this, man.
Kind of carved that.
There we go. Thanks.
I'm imagining Fred Flintstone.
But
no, there was a combo exam, right? That you could do all 3, and then you do troubleshooting, right?
Oh yeah, that was the combo. Yeah, I didn't take that one. That was
that sounds insane. That sounds.
I took the combo one, sometime, first CCNP, I took
Wow.
Did you ever research? Your CCNP?
When I took the CCIE, it automatically researched.
That's the answer.
Yeah, so I didn't have to research alone by itself. Yeah.
I can promise you that research for CCNP back in the day was twice as hard as the CCIE written. It was unbelievable. But go ahead. We digress. Let's move on. Sorry.
But I suppose the point being that there's a new generation of exams, right? So the CCNP doesn't look like that anymore, but we've also got these nice new shiny DevNet certs, right? So I don't know. Can you walk us through a little bit about some of the thinking and some of the way things are looking on the DevNet? Is that something you can help us with, Stuart?
Absolutely. Yeah. So as you know, we announced the DevNet certification at Cisco Live last year in San Diego, and we'd been working on a little bit of stuff leading up to it anyway, because we had pages and things like that going live on DevNet on the developer site, and everything was due to go live on there. So we've been kind of working on it and things. Our entire team was involved in this. because it was such a monumentous thing to take on. As you know, there's 10, all in total, there's 10 DevNet exams. So there's the DevNet Associate, and then there's the DevNet CCNP. And that's made up of the core exam and then 9 other sort of specialist or concentration exams. And then obviously how our team works is all that we have, as I mentioned right at the start, where I'm sort of developer advocate, network automation and service provider, we have other advocates which have other specialisms, such as wireless technologies, collaboration, that are more involved in the DevOps side and data center, enterprise automation. So it becomes sort of like you're the SME within that sort of remit, and you was able to sort of put down which exams you wanted to be involved in. And so we started working with learning at Cisco. And, going into that sort of like looking at the mountain of work, which kind of bared down upon our team, was like, wow, this is going to be a lot of work. And, it's going to be that labor of love, blood, sweat and tears. So let's crack on and let's do it. And, we went through the sort of like the entire process, understanding with, learning at Cisco, how everything works and how everything sits and how they build the exams. And that was a real learning experience. And all of a sudden you kind of sort of like learning the magician's secrets. You're seeing how the sausage is made, and we started on this, and then it got kind of, after you've gone through the sort of like the basic understanding, we got broken down into the SME sort of tasks and things. And then we started actually working on the full content itself. And it just, you just started carving out times and working with different folks, globally across, pretty much doing everything for the exam, which was, coming up with everything from the concepts to the question writing right across the board. Thankfully now that's all pretty much done and dusted. We're through all of that sort of side now. As you know, the certifications, then they got, you can book them now. You can go on Pearson's. It's all available for you to book. I think 24th of February is the first testing date. And we've been doing because there's been such a huge amount of interest in this, the first thing people are going to do is just come straight into DevNet to get more information about this. And so we've written blogs about, what you need to pass the certification, all the resources which we have on DevNet currently to be able to, learn and study for the exams. All the different bits and pieces, the learning labs, the sandboxes and that kind of stuff that we have. And then we've been doing webinars as well. So I think I'm doing my second webinar soon for the Dev Core exam. I've already done the SP Auto one. And it's just a 40-minute talk about, the exam itself, the structure of the exam. And we talk about, this Kickstart is always kind of the same, where, we talk about the sort of like the actual, the full track itself and all the specialisms and bits and pieces through it. And then now with the way that the certifications are actually shaped is that, if you think, okay, I just want to go for the CCNP DevNet, there's no need to take CCNA sort of like DevNet Associate. You don't have to take that. If you feel you're at that level, go ahead and take it. So take the core, which will earn you a specialist certification straight away. So it's not like back in the day when we were taking the CCNP and you did your sort of like switch exam and kind of like nothing came through the post. Now you actually do get the certification. So, you can put that up on the wall there next to your sort of 25 meters breaststroke and your dog showing or 10-pin bowling championship kind of Lego builder things.
Certified Novell engineer I've got here, but that's a whole different thing.
That's worth its weight in gold.
Different era.
So that hit on a good thing. That hit on a good thing that you commented on earlier with your when you started your certification journey, and the employer, right, would only pay for one, but you still had 3 more to go, so you had to put. Yeah. Do you see a lot of change with that now, with them being able to recognize that incremental recognition and go get that after that one test, right, versus having to wait for 4 or 6 or whatever, you got to get through everything?
Yeah, I see that the way that the structure is now done is going to be a lot better. And I think the DevNet certification, talking with the Cisco partners and, the people that we speak with across the spectrum, is that there's a lot of companies out there which are now waiting to put their employees through the DevNet certification. They're kind of primed and ready, and they're wanting to know more. We've done a lot of work with a lot of companies, and we do obviously a lot of cross training with DevNet as well. So I speak to a lot of the SEs as well about the DevNet certifications, because they want to go out when they're speaking with their customers and talk about the DevNet certifications. So there's as much internal training going on as is, external. That I presented to a bunch of SEs recently, and I was pretty much presenting the same deck that I present externally and stuff, just talking about all of the certifications, how it's structured, everything that's involved in taking them and stuff. The fact there's no prerequisites and everything which goes around to that, and why it's I mean, personally, I think it's going to be the hottest cert again. That's out there on the market. I've seen so many people saying that they've booked for the first week already. It's just insane.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think it's no better.
Well, and also too that the recent announcement about them being now counting towards partner sort of specializations and those kinds of things, I think is going to even drive that up even more. Right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And there's that as well. There's the point system which comes with it as well. It all really helps, and I think people are kind of really keen to learn this as well.
I mean, just go back to the sort of badge per cert thing. I think that's something you've seen across the cloud certs and all the rest of it. You see people collecting the awards, and I think that having a similar system makes a lot of sense from that point of view. I think it's people can you see all the email things, don't you, with all the different AWS things that someone's collected or whatever. And I think it will be a very similar arrangement. I think it makes a lot of sense to go down that path. But I think
I actually got told to remove those off my email signature one time, and the reason why was apparently it was causing issues with the email server. I'm not going to remove them. And they went, come on, it's getting really silly now because you've got like 8 of them across the bottom. And I'm like, no.
Wait, hold on. What kind of images were you using? Were you passing the 5 megabit quota? Is that what happened?
Yeah, I think I was passing something like that. And there was a guy who I worked with. His name was John, and he was equally as passionate about getting certification. He was going down the Microsoft certification route. And, he probably had about 12 or 15 just lined across the bottom of these emails. You actually had to scroll through his signature.
It's never, but no. Should I mean? That's one for your LinkedIn page or something, right? Someone can go look that stuff up.
Have you seen somebody endorsed me on LinkedIn for cat herding recently?
Nice. Cat herding.
Yeah, I thought that was quite good. Yeah, it was nearly as good as Unicorns as a Service.
I need to make a note of that one.
I'll make a note of that.
USS. Yeah,
that's good. Right, that's it. That's another link that's got to go in the show notes. So definitely, I think.
Hey, so Stuart, I got a question. So you made a comment about a lot of the content for the exams and preparation and stuff can be found on DevNet.
Yeah.
I haven't looked at like a lot of like the reading lists and stuff for some of those because I'm starting to figure out what I want to do.
Yeah.
Can you give an idea as to how close DevNet as just that one resource can get people to that cert? I mean, I remember at a time when you looked at a Cisco blueprint, like there was like 10 books that weren't Cisco press books, right? That you could go out and would be a cert prep, right? When it comes to IEs, but how close does DevNet really get people to being prepared for the exams just at that one resource?
I believe we're around about sort of 95% of, we've tied a lot of the content that we already had on DevNet from the sandboxes and the learning labs, and we've actually tied that back to the content as well. So when you look at, if you look at the search sort of, page that we have on DevNet, you'll see sort of like, how it's broken down to the 20%, the 30%, the 20%, 30%. And there's pretty much as much resources as we've got to actually pull them in there. It's not the full list. We have, and our team now is still working on content. So we have a lot of content which is due to drop in the January sort of time frame, actually, which is going to be more sort of official DevNet training certification, which the team have been working on again for that. Jason Gooley and a couple of the guys on our team are also working on the Cisco Press DevNet Associate book as well. So
I was just going to ask about Cisco Pressbooks, actually, because obviously we've seen the Cisco Pressbooks for the new CCNP and the new CCNA, but I hadn't seen anything for the DevNet yet.
So you know Jason, the godfather of programmability.
So they say.
Yeah. Certainly say my metal brother Jason's so funny. we was at badge check-in at Cisco Live in Barcelona, and somebody came up to us and told us to keep it down. We were just going mad and stuff, just laughing and just joking around with stuff, and they're saying, just keep it down a bit, and we're like,
what can you do?
Yeah.